Brandon Miller wins it at the buzzer for the Charlotte Hornets as they beat the Detroit Pistons in a narrow 1-point victory. More on that later, but I have to get into the pre-game injury report first. The usuals were out, Mark and Nick, but something to note is that Brandon Miller wasn't on the injury report, so that's nice to see. Something that wasn't nice to see was LaMelo being on the injury report because of ankle soreness at shoot-around, but he ended up playing through it, and I would say that the effects of that were clear in this game. LaMelo had a terrible shooting game all the way up until the fourth quarter, which contributed to the Hornets not really getting off to the best start. Something that also contributed to the bad start was the defense on Cade Cunningham, really just barreling his way to the rim, living at the rim in this quarter. He scored a lot on LaMelo, but really he was just scoring on anyone that was in front of him, and the game was made easier for him because there was no fear of a shot blocker because the centers for this quarter were Taj Gibson and Grant Williams, which isn't to say that Taj was bad. He still made contributions on the other end. It's just that he wasn't the answer and he can't provide the shot blocking that Nick and Mark can. Another thing that contributed to the slow start was Trey Mann missing shots. Also, something to note is that Jalen Duren went down in the first quarter. Tried to give it a go for a few more minutes, but yeah, he just got sidelined for the rest of the game. So that played a major factor in how this game played out. For the second quarter, there's not a whole ton to say. Like, it's just regular basketball, I would say. But I've got to say that from this point on, more attention was being brought to Cade Cunningham, and he wasn't being allowed to play one-on-one anymore, which was a big deal. In the third quarter, the Hornets went out there and played free, actually. The defense was stifling. There was a Melo to Miles Alley, a Brandon Miller and Taj Gibson 4-point play, a LaMelo half-court lob to Brandon, and LaMelo made a three. Like, they were cooking up 6. So why was LaMelo taken out of the game for Trey Mann when they had the momentum? This led to them losing that 6-point advantage and only being up by 1 point going into the fourth quarter. Bad coaching decision by Charles Lee. You see the threes falling and the lobs, and you see the Hive being alive and the Hornets feeding off that energy, but you bench LaMelo right in the middle of that. Maybe it's because of the soreness, but if it wasn't, then that's ridiculous. Can't run with these preset rotations. You have to coach the game, coach this specific game. And in this game, considering the circumstances and how it was playing out, that's a time when you just leave Melo, Miles, and Miller out there and let them build the lead off that momentum. Then in the fourth quarter, LaMelo took over scoring-wise. There were some frustrating missed shots, but then there were some insane shots, like the 2 clutch threes that he made with like 2 minutes left, then with like 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter. That should have been the main story. Hornets up 3 with about 24 seconds left. Get a stop and shoot some free throws maybe, but Cody and Grant gave up a quick score to Ivy, not communicating on the Tobias screen, and Grant made no effort to contest the shot, but it should be fine. The shot clock isn't in play. Play the foul game. But Brandon Miller got doubled, turned it over, and Ron Holland traveled and scored with 6 seconds left. It just wasn't called. Also, another thing about Ron Holland that I didn't have in this write-up is that he actually was shooting like 1 for 16 from 3 on the season, but he made like 2 threes in this game. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, he was having himself a night. That's just like such a fake performance. But yeah, getting back to the end of that game, on the other end, Grant missed a 3, really looked like they blew it. They lost to the Pistons, but out of nowhere with like a second left, Brandon got the offensive rebound and put it back in. Walk-off game winner. And the Hornets survived and didn't take an embarrassing loss. Even though the Pistons are playing better than last season for sure, they still can't get that negative label off their name. So it's nice that the Hornets got this one for sure. Now it's time for player performance grades. LaMelo is going to get an A-. He took over in the fourth quarter, which got him an A rather than a B, but for the majority of this game, he was missing some really makeable shots for him, which bumps his grade down to an A-. Miles Bridges is going to get an A+. He came through in a big way with his 27 points, hitting a lot of free throws. Hopefully he's okay. He went back to the locker room with an apparent leg injury, but he came back to close out the game on the final possession. Brandon Miller is going to get a B. I like that he hit a game winner. I like his defense on Cade at points, but the scoring efficiency just wasn't there, which stops his grade from being any higher. Taj Gibson is going to get a B. He was playable in this game and gave some good minutes. Josh Green is going to get an F. He just ran around up there and he missed a layup. Grant Williams is going to get a C-. The stat sheet might look all right, but he turned it over way too much for my liking. Trey Mann is going to get an F. He just didn't provide much in this game, and his minutes have gone down ever since Brandon has come back. Cody Martin is going to get a B+. He had a solid all-around game for once, I've got to say. T-John is going to get a B. He came in, hit a 3, and played some solid defense. Seth Curry is going to get an F. He provided nothing. Finally, Musa Diabate is going to get a C-, but if I could really give out like a new grade that I actually really want to give him, I would give him a W for whatever. Like, he only played 6 or so minutes and didn't really impact the game, and didn't really impact how the game went, I would say. He had no impact out there. The Charlotte Hornets play the Indiana Pacers tomorrow. A win here wouldn't get them to a positive record or even a 500 record, but it would be good for morale, and it would be a nice way to slowly dig out of the hole that they created for themselves. Just take it one game at a time. But yeah, that is all for now.